There's something to be said about the longevity of a video game. How long can the same task be fun? How long can chopping a tree feel meaningful before the repetition makes you want to quit the game for the same thing that you enjoyed about it? In RuneScape, at level 1, the thing you do today is still important and useful as a resource for a max level player. The economy is a living thing, so real that in parts of the world, people pay their bills with RuneScape gold, because gold in RuneScape is actually more stable than national currencies. And the point I bring that up for is because there's only really value in things people care about. The goals players hold in RuneScape are unique.
Meet Swampletics, my Moritania-locked Ultimate Iron Man. Since December of 2018, I've been living strictly in Mauritania. I'm an Ultimate Iron Man account, which means I can't use banks and I can't trade other players. This is my story. I'm going to be taking on one of RuneScape's biggest challenges, the Theater of Blood.
One more shot. Please. Yes! Oh my god!
Hello everyone. Today once again we're going to be going back on a low combat level account to do the fight caves, but this time I promise you, it's final. That's because we're doing it on a level 3, being the lowest combat possible in the entire game. As sad as it sounds, I've probably been dreaming about the possibilities of performing a fight cave attempt at this combat level since I was just a kid.
Every now and then, he would begin shouting cabbage-related phrases while banking. Other players took notice, and Blackbane was soon referred to by players on the tip.it RuneScape forums as that crazy dude picking cabbage. As Blackbane's collection grew, so did the amount of curious players. By 2004, Blackbane had picked over 100,000 cabbages, and many of those same forum members that called him crazy would begin picking cabbages with him to see what they might be missing out on. Eventually, they would move to the Falador farm patch, as more cabbage spawns were available and it was still close to a bank. Many players began asking Blackbane if he would start a clan about cabbage picking, since now there was a small group of players who enjoyed it. Blackbane thought the idea of a clan was boring, and instead wanted to start, in his own words, a cult, which he would name the Order of Cabbage.
So this is how the adventure begins. Originally, I tried to Ninja Turtle someone out and it didn't go too well. I came up here to get some EP and use some brawlers, but now I'm just minding my own business, and all of a sudden these bolts of fire start flying all over the place. I get ambushed, and this is how the adventure goes down.
Is this guy wearing monk robes? It's Dragon Fire Shield. Are you serious? You guys serious? It's not even funny. It's not even funny. Oh yeah, here we go. Oh my god, yes! There's a turtle, bitch! Oh, good fight! Both exposed there. Very juicy. The thing protects over my claws, so I'm gonna leave it till last. What are they doing? They're just sitting there. Decent loot though. Wait a second. Level 97? Oh, I'm getting this fresh loot. I'm getting it now. Daddy's coming for dinner. Die! Oh! 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 Hunted! Got him! Oh, tender juice! Oh! Oh my god! Oh! 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 My blood pressure! I just got a Vista cherry! Oh! Oh! Oh my god! That was nice! That was juicy, tender, nutritious! Team? Oh, nope. Oh, one more. Oh, got him! Chicken, chicken, winner, chicken dinner! Whoa-ho! Chain body! Rune, chain body. Oh. I am victorious! Oh, my blood pressure!
This is not fake, by the way. This is actually a legit picture. 10 hours of trying to get the Dragon Warhammer. This was like a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, I uploaded this video. And this was the part where I showed a sped up, I think it was 10 hours, sped up to 1 minute video clip. So I obviously didn't look at it. I thought, okay, whatever, like there's gonna be nothing in it. And apparently there was one frame where I showed my what I download my torrents, I guess, and there were a few files where they had like very sketchy names, like this one. I'm not gonna read this one. There's a second one. Mom didn't know about my what?
I gotta think it through. I knew that's what he was doing. I fucking knew it. I fucking knew it. Burn damage, nice. Come on, get him fucking down! Yes. How did I not get teleported? How did I not get teleported? Dude, when you weren't coming back down or anything and stalling me, I was like, there's a fucking chest up there, isn't there?
Dude, when I went to that chest at the start of the episode, I got teleported like 4 times in a row. And I was like, you know what? I can get out that way. And that's a really good escape plan.
Guys, the video ends here, but there's gonna be a massive finale to settle this tiebreaker in the next video.
There is a rumor that consumed over 100 hours of my life over the past month. A rumor that drove me mad. There are tiles in RuneScape that have never been walked on by a player. In the entirety of this giant game, there are walkable sections that no one has ever touched. But today, that changes. This is gonna be maybe the dumbest thing I've ever done. And that's saying something, because I've done a lot of dumb things. We are gonna step on every single tile in RuneScape. There are over 1.5 million walkable tiles of my latest estimate.
So without further ado, I'd like to introduce everyone to my new character, by release. The objective is simple. Obtain a quest cape. But there's a catch. If I want that cape, I have to complete the quests in the order that they were put into the game. As of right now, there are 142 quests in old school RuneScape. We are going to conquer each and every one of them, from oldest to newest as an Iron Man.
20 competitors are back to battle it out for their share of RuneScape's biggest prize pool. Starting at 15 billion GP, it will increase every week as they face new challenges.
This is gonna be so close. Let's go!
Create fierce rivalries.
If we can't trust each other, it can't go well.
I trusted the wrong people.
And try to survive ruthless eliminations.
No way.
Yeah! In the end, only one will rise above the rest. Welcome to Gielinor Games.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Boaty, returning once again to produce some content for my 4th Gielinor Games appearance. After securing 2nd place in Season 3 and suffering an early elimination in Season 4, I am back for one reason and one reason only: to be crowned the winner of the 5th season of Gielinor Games.
Somewhere in the boundaries of the world of RuneScape, the definition of play is kind of different. It's not the same game for every person. And if you look at RuneScape and ask, is it fun? The answer might be no. When I think about this game, fun is not really the first thing that comes to mind. And it's not really something I can think of with another game I play. Like, even games that are tough, like Dark Souls or Tarkov. I have fun with those a lot. And I have fun with RuneScape too, but it's not the fun part that is what draws me to it. And that's something I can't say about any other game. RuneScape is so ingrained in my memory, it's so familiar. It's honestly like my Pikachu plush that I've had since I was a kid. It's worn out and old, And that's what's kind of nice. It's a familiar thing to me. And RuneScape doesn't ask for your full attention. It just wants your company a little bit. At its core, RuneScape is a crusty game built to run on a browser on 256 megabytes of RAM, just DDR, not even DDR2 or anything like that. It's just DDR and no graphics card. Literally integrated motherboard graphics would run RuneScape. And if I log into that same 20-year-old character now, I'm probably not going to be checking out the newest update. What I'd be doing would be the content that was new and really cool to me as a kid in 2008, the Corporeal Beast. It's 2 decades old of an update, but I wouldn't be the only person there. There would be multiple people doing it on their own as solos, and even there's masses that still happen every day, every hour. People are still engaging with this content that is that old. Everyone is still after a sigil after all this time, even though there's likely thousands in the economy at this point. And even though I haven't been on my account in probably 5 years, and it hasn't been meta per se in probably closer to 7 or 10, I could pick up and fight the Corporeal Beast with my gear setup from, let's say, 2014. Even though everything is that old, it doesn't ever change or really get removed from the ecosystem of the game. And the entire game is built around these things like that. Everything you do has a real-world value tied to it. Your time chopping a tree is valuable. Your time engaging with in-game content is valuable. RuneScape is good because it's a beautiful landscape created by 3 brothers who love visiting castles and having pretend sword fights as knights. The cooking sound is literally the Gower brothers' mom.
They were going around the house with a microphone looking for interesting sounds.
I remember the cooking sound, and my mum happened to be frying some bacon one day, and I was standing there with the voice recorder recording it, and the sound of cooking in RuneScape Classic is the sound of my mum frying some bacon.
I was a primary school teacher, so it was a school holiday, so I got the time, and I've always loved drawing. So I said I'd have a go, so I did 4 animals for him. I had a camel, a bear, a spider, and a bat. And they're all still on Classic.
I did bits and pieces, even though I wasn't much of a graphics artist. I did the RuneScape Classic cow. Was my proudest graphical achievement in RuneScape Classic.
She's cooking bacon in the kitchen. It wasn't something designed and engineered to be iconic. It's an iconic part of RuneScape because it was real. Real love was used to make this game. And that's why I think a lot of the player base is still here. It's a shared space of memories that generations of people have enjoyed at this point. And it's a place where you'll meet thousands of other players along your journey. You'll talk to hundreds of people if you've played it to the completion I have. Even if you don't remember their name, you remember the conversations you had and content you engaged with together. There's a history to this world that you recognize like a familiar face at McDonald's or the gas station, a friend you recognize from high school. But to get into who we are as the player character in RuneScape, we're just a guy. You're not the hero. You're not the hero of trains, the Dovahkiin, or anything like that. You're just some person with a backpack in this giant world called Gielinor. It's a dangerous place that's huge. It's not like World of Warcraft where you're only allowed 2 skills and a set class. A RuneScape player character can do everything. They just have to invest the time to learn about it and practice that art. And there's things in RuneScape that are so complex and skill-oriented. I genuinely believe RuneScape might be one of the hardest games ever to complete. And not just because of the time investment aspect of completion. I mean that there's literal skill challenges that are so insane that you don't even really know what you're looking at. You're so fresh to this game that you don't even recognize what is impressive that's happening at this moment. And yeah, I mean, it all comes down to you click buttons, but the level of skill that this actually takes, you cannot do. Not that you can't do it, it's that you're incapable of doing it. There will be a skill ceiling so high in this game that you can climb to that it's impossible for 99% of players, legitimately. Less than 1% of the player base has been capable of achieving some of these things. But to get into more general world things you would need to know, the world is Gielinor. It's not RuneScape. Gielinor is an anagram for religion, and the moon is called Xanaros. I don't really know why it's called Xanaros, but once you're finished with the tutorial, you're going to be dropped straight into Lumbridge Castle. It's a castle right next to the River Lum. This is where you're going to be sent to when you die. And old school RuneScape takes place in the 5th Age. The 5th Age started when Guthix...
My name is Guthix!
He's essentially the guy who created the world.
The gods spent billions of years just floating without speaking a word to each other until one day. Ah, what did you do? Dude, I didn't do anything, man. Who the hell did this? I did it. Who are you? My name is Guthix.
Super chill dude. Once he had created the world, other gods noticed and came to Gielinor. Eventually Guthix decided to take a nap, and he stayed asleep for centuries. But he eventually was woken up by the God Wars, and it made him cry. He declared that all gods must leave Gielinor for what they did, and they had to abandon their followers. Anyone who was born in Gielinor and called it home were to be left without their god. Once all the gods had left Gielinor, Guthix created the Edicts of Guthix. And it's basically just a magic barrier around the world that keeps all the gods out. And now the only way gods can interact with the world is through rituals and artifacts and things like that. And a regular person, a man, woman, even kings, likely don't know this story. Most don't, in fact. Most NPCs are only going to be aware of their god only. If they know about any other gods, they likely think about their followers as enemies. Alright, so here's more gameplay mechanic tips. The combat system works on a triangle, or rock, paper, scissors system. Magic beats melee. Melee beats ranged. Ranged beats mage. Knowing where an item spawns or is obtained is much more valuable than the item itself. Only use the south staircase in Lumbridge. Pick fancy boots over fighting boots. And this game's wiki is probably the best for any game ever. But I want you to avoid using the wiki for these first few sessions. You all can talk about the game to each other as much as you want, or in-game to other players as much as you want. But I don't want you getting on the wiki and punching in what's the best thing to kill cows with or something like that. Let the first few sessions be blind, and we'll open it up later. Your goals for session 1 are going to be pretty simple. I'm going to have you focus on the basics that are just going to make your account better for the long haul. I'd like for you to get your fishing and cooking to level 20. I'm going to have you do a few of the noob quests in the Lumbridge area. You want to do Cook's Assistant, the Restless Ghost, and Sheep Shearer. And the last thing, I want you to talk to somebody. Try to make an in-game friend, even if you're just asking them for help and they tell you to add them. Try to get somebody to say, hey, add me. And don't be afraid to ask a max level player, hey, how do I do this? Most max level players love this game. They want to talk to you about it, I promise. A few things I want you all to try to note, have on hand for meeting one. I want to know what the most confusing thing you tried to do was. Who's the weirdest or your favorite NPC that you've talked to? Did you die? What killed you? What's the most useful thing you found or made? Did anything make you laugh? What's the best song? And be sure to show your bank off at the end of your recording.